Hello, my name is Daniel the HULKK Perales. I'm a former convict. I served 5 years in the penitentiary. I am the owner of Iron Compound Gym, and this is my story on how fitness saved my life. And let me just go back a little bit, man. I was, a survivor of suicide. I did shoot myself point blank with a 45 in the head. I was heavily on PCP at the time, which is a pretty heavy drug. Where I'm from, they call it wet embalming fluid. It's a real known drug all across, the world. And I found myself, in a lost position to where, I thought everything was against me, and I felt, that was my only way out. And I was wrong. For anybody that ever feels like that, man, there is help. There is people willing to, listen and give an ear. Don't ever think that's the solution, man, because when there's something like that happens, you do have people out there that really care and love you. So, reach out if you do need help, because you do have family members and loved ones that really do care about you. Man, when I shot myself point blank with that 45, it was the biggest thing my mother had ever had to deal with. It was on New Year's. My mother got the call and said, hey, Danny boy shot himself. Everybody was like, man, he's dead. He's gone. The word spread around quick. At the time, I wasn't expected to make it in the back of the ambulance. I believe I went out 1 or 2 times. And I remember in the back of the ambulance, like we were saying, we brought him back on the way to the hospital. But throughout that time, man, a voice spoke to me, and it was the most calming, soothing voice I'd ever heard in my life. And I know that was God, because it just sounded so loving and caring that it gave me hope. It made me want to live, and it reminded me, the voice told me, he goes, hey man, just want you to know you're gonna live, but just know that your grandfather gave something up for that to be possible. So they brought me back. As soon as they brought me back, they had closed up the wound. It took a while. The doctor comes in after about 4 days, because I was out of it. The doctor comes in, and as soon as I was able to speak and talk to him, they had let me know, hey, the doctor said in the exact words, hey man, I just want to let you know you're a lucky motherfucker. And this is a doctor speaking, a professional person. She's like, I don't cuss, but you're a lucky motherfucker. She's like, for you to survive this, you have a purpose in life. And I could not understand at the time what my purpose in life could have been, because I had been through so much and gone through so much at an early age. You don't understand this until the time comes and it's presented to you.
Somebody got to break, and don't nobody want to break, so somebody got to break. Because in the end, there can only be one. At the end, I want to answer the question, which one of you motherfuckers is coming in second? I am the one. Come on, Hulk. Cut. Get up with that shit. Hell yeah. The one that you heard about. The one that they tell stories about. The one that your mama warned you about. I'm here. Come on, Suge, what you gonna do now? He done threw down the gauntlet. He done drawn the line in the sand and dared you to step over that motherfucker, Suge. What you gonna do? I told you! Watch this shit!
Let me just go ahead and jump right into it, man. Growing up in Corpus Christi, there's not much opportunity, man. And growing up in a city of, a population of 300,000, there's not much really to go off of. Either you take to the streets, or you take, to pretty much hustling, man. Me, in my case, I took to both at a very early age. I was introduced into the life really young, and I just followed in the footsteps of what I knew. I grew up in a household with a single mother. I'm the oldest of 4 brothers, so I had responsibility early in life. And you know, at the age of 9, I was probably hit with one of the worst times in my life where I didn't lose my mother, but my mother went to the penitentiary. She went at the age of 9 years old. I remember when I got the news, I was in school in 3rd grade. The teacher pulled me out of class and let me know, hey, you got something to tell you. And they informed me, you know, that my mother had been incarcerated. You know, at that age, it's pretty scary for a kid, you know, wondering what's going to become of yourself and, you know, what have you. I was very blessed and fortunate that my mother's sister took us in and raised us for those 4 years, and, you know, took care of us as her own until my mom's return. My mom came home when I was about 13 years old. When she came home, you know, I was already heavily involved in the street life, already involved in gang activity, you know, and I was already introduced into hustling in the streets. And, you know, I just took to what I knew, man, followed in the footsteps of all I knew, thinking that was it for me for life. So I continued. When my mom came home, you know, my mother had made a change in her life and, you know, saw the route that I was headed down. And she hit me, you know, with an ultimatum at an early age, said, hey, either get your shit together or get out my house. Well, me thinking that I knew it all at the age of 13 years old, I chose the streets, you know, and I left. And when I left at 13 years old, you know, I went on my own. I was forced to provide, you know, my own place of living, you know, make my own means of surviving and supporting myself. You know, I ended up picking up one of my first charges at 13 years old, a deadly conduct. Later on, it was dismissed. I was released to the custody of my mother. You know, they tried getting me back on track. And at the time, man, I just wasn't really ready to hear it. But they never gave up. You know, they still continued to try to get through to me. And from that point on, you know, I was just a snowball effect of what was going on in the streets. I involved in my daily life and activities. At the age of 16, I was shot 6 times in front of my house. I had just got out of school. I was on probation, you know, or ready for dealing. And, you know, again, I was released from my mother under the supervision of my mom because I wasn't of age to, you know, be legally responsible for myself. And I was shot 6 times with a .357 in front of my house. I had just got home from school. At the time I was going to an alternative school. It was either from 12 to 4 or 4 to 8. I had just got home from school and, you know, ran into a rival that I knew, and they ended up finding out where I was living. Well, they come back, and that's where I was shot 6 times in front of my house. Close range, you know, 16 years old, you know, it's pretty heavy. I wasn't supposed to walk ever again, you know, and by God's good grace, man, and, you know, his mercy, he saw fit for me to do so. It took a year for me to be able to even get back on my feet and walk. I had both of my femur bones shattered to the bone. I'm talking about like broken bottles, pieces of glass, like to where they found about a 2-inch piece of my bone from inside my femur bone on the floor after it had happened. I didn't accept them telling me that I wasn't gonna walk. I wasn't trying to hear that, man. You know, at an age like that, you don't want to hear something like that. So every day, you know, I was already in the streets. My homies from my neighborhood took me to the neighborhood swimming pool, and that was the only place I felt whole and complete again, because in that water, all that weightlessness, I was able to walk. But little did I know that it was rehabilitating me at the same time. I started getting stronger. I continued practicing the walk to where I finally was able to regain myself and was walking. Shortly after that, I had picked up, you know, several dope cases, man, for possession with the intent to deliver and manufacture. I had several cases pending on me, At this time, I was already 17 years old. You know, in Texas, 17 years old is considered an adult. So I was already facing, you know, adult time. I was sentenced 5 years for aggravated robbery and possession with intent to deliver a controlled substance. They saw fit to give me leniency for being so young, but at the same time, they still wasn't able to give me no slap on the wrist. So I was hit with 5 years. I went in when I was, you know, 18, came home when I was right after 2 weeks after my 24th birthday. You know, I was home a short time. I took back to hustling, everything that I knew from the streets, you know, everything that I've ever known. And, you know, I just fell back in the same place I was before. I started taking pain pills, got addicted to pain pills real bad, which led to me using opiates, which I was later, you know, addicted to heroin for a long time, a total of 8 going on 9 years, heavily into it, wasted years of my life hooked on this drug, and, you know, spent more than I could even care to say on film on this habit, but I mean, it was a substantial amount, stuck pretty bad. I went away for 1 more year, man. They sent me off to rehab, and by this time, you know, after the 8 years, almost 9 years of being addicted to drugs, I was back in the same place, and I'm looking at myself in these walls, and I'm like, damn, what am I doing here? I always told myself I wouldn't be that dude, you know, to wind up spending the rest of my life in prison. You know, being there at an early age from 18, you know, you see men in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and you're like, damn, what could these dudes possibly still be doing here? But I found myself winding up almost in that same predicament. So after that last year that I was there, man, I looked around and I'm like, man, this ain't for me. I need to make a change. So on my way out, I'll never forget this, man. There was an officer, and I'll never forget these words, and he said, you know what, you'll be back. And I said, nah, motherfucker, you'll be back before I come back. And I never looked back since, man. You know, I stayed free. I found myself, you know, trying to figure out what I was gonna do to better myself, and I started working out, applying myself to powerlifting. And that's why I say powerlifting saved my life, because I started applying that to my everyday life, going to the gym 2 hours a day, you know, and it really did save me, man. I found something that I was really great at and passionate about, and that's where I met my wife, the greatest person to ever come into my life and really bring out the best in me. And, you know, shortly after, we opened our own gym. And we've been there ever since, man. We opened up a few months, like maybe a few weeks, not months, a few weeks before COVID hit. And then COVID hit really bad. And we were like, damn, you know, so they started closing all major gyms down. And it was like, damn, we had everything invested in this. Well, luckily for me, you know, I applied everything I learned from the streets to this business. So I started selling curbside shirts, scheduling appointments, people to come work out by the hour, no more than 10 people at a time, 6 feet apart, making sure that we stayed on top of the sanitization and everything, to where we were able to get a little bit of breathing room. Slowly but surely, things started opening up for us, and there was light at the end of the tunnel for us. We weren't closed down. We've seen a lot of big gyms, commercial gyms closed down, and God saw fit for us to, you know, keep our doors open. Shortly after, we started competing in powerlifting. Me and a buddy of mine, we entered our first competition, and we took first and second place in that. And that just let us know that, hey, we found somewhere where we belong. And we've been competing ever since. Iron Compound was created. We built a great powerlifting team with a great group of guys. Iron Compound is a fully functional machine. There is not one piece more important than the other. I'm a sprocket on a well-oiled machine that forms and works only as one. We were trying to bring something to Texas that's never been done. So this is just me giving everybody of who I am, the background that I come from, and letting y'all know that, hey, no matter what you go through in life, man, no matter how much the odds are stacked against you, don't ever let nobody put a label on you, man. It's never got to be the end of it for you. You can always make a way out as long as you're willing to fight and continue to work and make yourself better. Hey, if a motherfucker like me can make it, man, anybody can. You know, I come from nothing, I come from the streets. I'm here to let everybody from the street know, hey, you know what, man, don't ever give up on your dreams, because I'm living proof, man. Hey, I'm the owner of a gym, you know, a well-known gym that's getting out there, and this is my story. This is who Daniel the HULKK Perales is, man. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for Mr. CT Fletcher. Thank you for Kevin the HULKK Washington, who put this together. Thank you for everybody that supports us, that continues to support us. We couldn't be here without y'all. Thank you for everybody that's believed in us since day one. And that's just me giving my story, man. So thank y'all so much.
And the beast shall be unleashed. Oh, man.
By the age of 16, I was shot 6 times. Wasn't supposed to ever walk again. But by the grace of God, he saw fit and forced for me to be able to do so. By the age of 17 and 18, I was on my way to the penitentiary. I didn't get home till I was 24 years old. I'm a survivor of a suicide. I shot myself point blank with a 45 to the head. And by God's good grace, he saw fit for me to stay alive and share my story. This is just to reach out and touch everybody, man, and let them know that you don't have to be labeled as what they put you as. I represent the streets. I represent every single person that has been in the gang, is in the gang. I represent everybody that was homeless. I represent everybody that comes from a broken home. I represent the streets in general, man. I'm just trying to show everybody that there is a way out. No way, shape, or form am I glorifying any of that. I'm just here to share my story and help the next man get along in life and move forward and show them that, you know, there always is another way, man. It doesn't always have to be what they set you out to be or what somebody labels you as. On the cool, when I shot myself, I was under the influence of embalming fluid. I had smoked about 10 sticks that day, and you know, that shit is some strong shit. And you know, by the grace of God, I survived it, man. You know, that shit makes you think things and, how you say, hallucinate and think things are there that aren't there. And I seen things, you know, that weren't really there. And by the grace of God, by his merciful blood, man, he saw forth for me to be alive. Honestly, man, shit, you want to know the truth? When I shot myself and I was dying, hey, man, I swear to God, you know, God is my witness, man. He's striking me down right now. He spoke to me, man. He spoke to me and he let me know. Hey, once I heard his voice, I knew it was him. He told me, you're not going to die. And it wasn't a language I didn't understand, but I understood. It was like my grandfather speaking to me in Spanish. I understood what he was saying without even knowing, you know, what was meant for me. And he just told me, man, hey, you know what? Just know that your grandfather gave something up for you to be here. And at the time, I didn't understand, you know. Had I talked to myself 4 years ago and told myself, hey, man, 4 years from now, you'd be one of the owners of the most fucking successful powerlifting gyms down south. You'd be a record holder within your first year, and you'd be, you know, touching 17 out of the 50 states with your merchandise and gear and competing all across the state of Texas. I would have told you you're fucking crazy out of your mind, you know. But God has his reasons for everything, man. And I'm living proof and giving my testimony. Hey, man, God is powerful and he is real.